Class is in session, hitting the books. Pub Sports Radio, Monday, November 1st. It's a brand new month as well. Ian Cameron and Conor Mack, your Monday look at the week ahead in college football. And boy, this is when things get fun during the week when you talk college football, because now we're into November, and that usually means Tuesday and Wednesday night, the MAC takes over. And that is what we are seeing here this week. We've got Tuesday night,
Madness.
Wednesday night action. And you know how crazy these games can sometimes be. So looking forward to breaking them down. And to be honest with you, there's some good spots on these Tuesday and Wednesday MAC slate of games, in my opinion. Starting with the very first game that we're going to talk about here. Eastern Michigan taking on Toledo. We've got the Rockets, 9-point home favorites, 52.5 the total in this game. The Toledo Rockets, this has definitely been a bit of a disappointing season for them. They're 4-4. It's not like they've been a disaster, but for a team that was expected to be one of the top teams in the MAC, a lot of people thought they'd be one of the favorites to win this conference. They haven't exactly played like it. They're running along with a 2-2 conference record behind 4-0 Northern Illinois in the West Division of the MAC. So a bit of a disappointing start to the year for Toledo. You look at the quarterback situation. The good news for them is, look, they made a change at quarterback. We wondered how it would work out for them. And DeQuan Finn stepped in against Western Michigan, and they ended up having a very good win against the Broncos in their last game last week, 34-15. So the quarterback change did seem to spark Toledo. Carter Bradley just wasn't the kind of quarterback that was really all that efficient and accurate at times with the football. And I think they decided, Jason Candle, hey, we got to make a change, jumpstart this offense after back-to-back losses to CMU and Northern Illinois. They were able to do that. Then on the flip side, you've got Eastern Michigan, who just destroyed Bowling Green in their last game, 55-24. Ben Bryant, the Wisconsin transfer, has been their QB this year, and he's actually played very well. 69% completions, 10 touchdowns, only 4 INTs, so he's protected the football. He's definitely been able to move the ball for Eastern Michigan. They've won 2 of their last 3 games. The only losses were Ball State by 7, but at Northern Illinois, who's shockingly been one of the best teams in the MAC so far, and they only lost that game by 7. I think this is too many points. This is Eastern Michigan in a point spread role. I like them in long term. They're a good underdog. You look at the long-term numbers under Chris Creighton, 24-9 against the spread in their last 33 road games, 20-6 against the spread, their last 26 as a road underdog. That's not too shabby. And this is the role I like Eastern Michigan in. And we can't be scared to bet against Toledo at home anymore. This is not the old Glass Bowl where they're unbeatable anymore at home, this Rockets team. In fact, they've slipped up here on their home field more than one occasion this year. So I think this is a very live road dog. Of all these MAC games, I'll tell you right now, this is a bet. This is going to be probably one of my stronger plays on the Tuesday, Wednesday MAC slate. Give me Eastern Michigan here, +9 at Toledo. I think they're right in this game. Conor Mack, what do you think here? Eagles and Rockets.
The last thing I just wanted to look up, the weather looks pretty good there tomorrow. 12-mile-an-hour wind.
Oh, yeah, check the weather for sure in these games, yep.
Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. That was the last thing I wanted to look at, very last second here. I'm with you. I think if we have good weather, you talked about the quarterback change with Toledo and Bradley out of there. I think this total's light too. We've seen Eastern Michigan games, points galore. Ball State 38-31. They beat down Bowling Green 55-24. Other than that Miami-Ohio game that was 13-12, this has been an over team that could score points. So I love the points with Eastern Michigan. Never lay it with Eastern Michigan. Always take the points. They're one of that list of probably like 15 teams or so that if I see a -9, don't play their games. You see them +9, you take them because there's value there. And I think there's value here. Toledo's been up and down. Obviously, the quarterback change might help them, but I don't know if they're 9 or 10-point favorites right here, better than Eastern Michigan. So I like the points, and I lean over a little bit here, the 52.5.
Yeah, that is a reasonable total for a MAC game when you're talking low 50s when it comes to a total like this, no question. And by the way, Toledo's statistical profile the last 2 games wasn't really that impressive, to be honest. They were outgained total yards against Western Michigan by 68 and outgained 0.8 yards per play as well. So don't be fooled by the 34-15 win against Western Michigan. It was one of those games where, Toledo ended up having, I think they had a couple of special teams scores as well in that game. So keep that in mind. Off short fields too, a couple of lost fumbles by Western Michigan, the +2 in turnover margin as well, Toledo in that game. So they really didn't play as well as the 34-15 win would indicate, Toledo. And like I said, at home, they've not been any great shakes this year. You look at it, they lost as 14.5-point favorites to Colorado State on their home field at the Glass Bowl. They lost outright as double-digit chalk to Northern Illinois here at the Glass Bowl. So this is a very live road dog. I like this one a lot, actually. Eastern Michigan here getting the points. And I'm with Conor, too, on the total. If I were to bet that, I'd only look over the total at a reasonable number there. Ball State Akron. We've got Ball State 19.5-point road favorites here, 57 being the total in this game. Ball State, kind of struggled early in the season, the first month, but they played better as of late. They had won 3 in a row. They do lose their last game against Miami, Ohio, 24-17 in that game to snap that 3-game losing streak. But you get a chance now to back them here in a bounce back type of spot. Akron, on the other hand, 45-10. They lost to the Buffalo Bulls in their last game. Just hasn't been that improvement that we've been looking for this Akron team. DeMarcus Irons was the quarterback in that game against Buffalo. His numbers aren't that bad, believe it or not. 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 65.5% completions. But again, in that Buffalo game, no touchdowns, 1 interception, and really struggled. 38% completions for him in that loss to the Buffalo Bulls. We know what we get from Ball State, a very, very dynamic, balanced offense. Drew Plitt at quarterback, Carson Steele running the football along with Will Jones, and then a very good receiving core. And a lot of their guys back from last year, Justin Hall, Johans Tyler, Jay-Sean Jackson. So this is a very, very explosive, good skill position talent here on this Ball State team. It's a lot of points to be laying here. You look at series history with these two teams. They haven't played in a few years, so there's not really a lot to go off. You look at defensive difference, though, between these two teams. You've got Akron giving up 449 yards per game, 7.2 yards per play. Ball State giving up 394.5 yards per game, 5.6 yards per play. And then you look at, the schedules. I think both teams have played some tough teams. Akron's played Auburn. Akron's played Ohio State. So they've played a couple of good teams. And Ball State, they played Penn State, and they played Army. They played some solid teams on their schedule as well. It's a lot of points to be laying here as home dogs this year. We've seen Akron lose by 17 against Ohio and then lose by 35 against Buffalo. So this home field really hasn't done anything for them. And then the Temple game, 6.5-point home dogs, they lose by 21. So it's just, I have not seen anything out of Akron in this home dog role that gets me excited about backing them. So it's one of those tough games where I probably could only look to lay in the points, but it is a lot of points to lay. Maybe Ball State's team total over can get there. That might be the best bet. That way you don't have to worry about laying the points. Team total for Ball State, 38.5. Hell, we just saw Akron give up 45 to Buffalo. I'll tell you this right now, Ball State's got a better passing game than Buffalo. So maybe Ball State over 38.5 team total might be a good look here. Conor, what do you think here? Ball State, Akron.
Yeah, we talk about teams. I mean, even though they're playing Akron, the Zips, who played a little bit decent, early on in the year, they're getting beat down, though. They're starting to just take it. 3 touchdowns with Ball State. I mean, you know what you're going to get. It seems early on in the year they started out slow, had those kind of bad losses, even though they played some good teams. They've come on with their offense. You talk about Plitt, Hall, Tyler. Those receivers you got are really good. I don't think Akron would be able to control them. I think the team total is a good look there. One thing with Akron and the total in this game, if they can score over 20 points, their games go over because they give up usually 45 or so, right around that range. If they only score 7, this game will stay under the total because there's been tons of games where they've lost 38-7 around that and only scored 7 points. So on the total, nothing there. And I just can't lay it with Ball State. Maybe look at the team total like you talked about. It'd be them or pass. I'm not going to take the points with Akron.
All right, we got Miami, Ohio here. Red Hawks and Bobcats. We've got Miami 7.5-point road favorites here, 51.5 the total in this one. The Ohio Bobcats, certainly a disappointing season for them. We've talked about how basically Frank Solich took off and for good reason in the offseason, retired early because he knew this team wasn't going to be good. Their only win is against that aforementioned Akron Zips team, 34-17. Other than that, they've not been able to win games. However, they've been competing a lot better lately. The last 3 games, After the Akron win, they lose by 3 to Central Michigan, but they cover the number. They lose by 1 against Buffalo. And they cover the number as road dogs there. And then the last game, Kent State, they were home dogs, 34-27. And Kent State's a very good team this year in the MAC. So they've definitely been more competitive. You give them credit for that. Stepped up a little bit on the offensive side of the football in particular. Of course, it's Nathan Rourke was the quarterback for years here at Ohio, and now this year it's his brother, Curtis Rourke, who is the quarterback. He's had up and down numbers this year, more down than up, to be honest with you. In the last 3 games, he has 1 touchdown with 3 interceptions. He really is a lot like his older brother, whereas, he can run with the football pretty well, but his passing accuracy, it comes and goes. And we're seeing that again this year with Curtis Rourke, much like we saw it with Nathan Rourke when he played for Ohio. On the other side of the fence, you've got Miami O coming off the solid win, outright as road dogs at Ball State, 24-17. They got their number 1 quarterback, Brett Gabbert, back in that game. He played very well in the victory over Ball State, 20 of 24, only 4 incomplete passes, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's a Miami O team that when you look at how they've executed on offense, they've been a little bit more of a passing success team than a run success team. And you look at Ohio this year in terms of their defensive numbers, they've actually been respectable against the pass. It's really against the run where they have been absolutely carved up. And it's not like Miami of O can't run the football, but the Ohio run defense for the year has given up 224 yards per game and 5.1 yards per carry. Just not very good here. So it's one of those spots where, the number seems pretty spot on to me. I lean to the road favorite here, but the problem is you could see a situation where, kind of like the Kent State game with Ohio's trailing by 14. They put some drive together and they get you through the back door. You could see that here in this game against Miami O in this game. Well, they didn't go through the back door against Kent because Kent was only laying 5, but they scored a late touchdown to make it a 7-point game. And if that happens here, you're in trouble if you're on Miami of O. So I lean to the road favorite. This is probably not one I'll get involved in, though. What do you think, Conor?
Yeah, this is one I'm not going to get involved either. This one seems like a coin flip to me. And one thing is, Ohio just can't win football games. I mean, they just had a tough time. But you talked about it. They've been in the last 3, a touchdown or less. The offense has moved the ball. You talk about how bad that defense is against the run. And I'm not just running to the window wanting to lay a touchdown and a half here, 7 in the hook with Miami, Ohio. They don't get me that excited. This one's a dead pass. This is one that you see I think you pass it. Don't mess around with it. Like you said, spot on. And it could get wild. We see these games are going to get wild, but they get crazy. Some of these, all of a sudden, there could be 45 points either way. So this one's a dead pass.
They definitely have the better numbers, Miami O. Like, Miami O is a lot better statistically than Ohio. So
it's legit, the touchdown, but yeah, I don't want to get
-7. I might bite for a small bet. 7.5, 8 now, which is where it is. Not so much. We move on now to Wednesday. We got 2 games in the MAC on Wednesday night: Northern Illinois and Kent State. Kent State 3.5-point home favorites in this game. 66.5, 67. The total in this game. Very, very high number here in this game. Kent State was a dark horse pick for me to win the MAC coming into the year. They've won 3 of their last 4 games. I don't know what happened to them against Western Michigan. It was just a dreadful game. But really, outside of that, they beat Bowling Green, Buffalo, and then Ohio in their last game. So better results for Kent State of late. Now they take on this Northern Illinois team that just continues, to get the job done. I mean, you look at their performance, 4-0 in the MAC so far, beating Eastern Michigan, Toledo, Bowling Green, Central Michigan. And shockingly, the offense and Rocky Lombardi's been capable here for this Northern Illinois team. Yeah, it might have been his best game as a college quarterback, to be honest, against Central. 348 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions for Rocky Lombardi. Javon Ducker, an outstanding back for them as well. And they've been a very, very balanced team this year. Look at the Northern Illinois offensive numbers. They're averaging almost 5 yards per carry, 232 on the ground, 165 passing. They definitely prefer to run the football. There's no question. So the key for Kent State is, what's their run defense like? And their run defense, I wish it was better because I lean Kent State here. I think it's telling, C-Mac, that Northern Illinois is undefeated in conference play, but they're underdogs in this game. it makes you think that maybe Kent's deserving of being favorites here. And look, Northern Illinois surprised me. I did not think they'd be this good. And if you would have said before the season you're going to give me Kent State -3.5 at home, I'd be all over it. I'm still probably going to lean toward Kent State here in this game because I like their offense against Northern Illinois. The one thing I'll say about Northern Illinois is their defense is still shaky, in my opinion, and they really have not played an offense, at least in MAC play, that delivers what Kent State can deliver. All right, Eastern Michigan is probably the best they've played. Toledo struggled offensively. Bowling Green's got a weaker offense. Central Michigan's had quarterback injuries this year so far. Quarterbacks going in and out because they can't stay healthy. This Kent State offense is going to really test Northern Illinois the way maybe some other teams couldn't. So I would lean to Kent State. And even though it's a high total, Connor, the one thing that stands out to me is Kent's run defense is leaky, and Northern Illinois by far wants to run the football more than put it in Lombardi's hands. I mean, they're averaging 47 run plays per game to just 21 pass plays per game. So this is definitely a team that wants to run the football. And unfortunately for Kent, they're giving up 204 and 5.3 yards per carry on the ground. So the way that Northern Illinois wants to execute on offense could be one that brings them success because of Kent's struggles to stop the run. So it's a high total, but I think as long as the weather's not too bad there on Wednesday night in Kent, we could see an over there. And don't forget, Kent plays extremely up-tempo, very, very fast, one of the fastest-paced offensive teams in college football. So it's a high total for a reason in my mind. Conor, what do you think here? Northern Illinois, Kent State.
Man, this one's really tough for me. Kent State laying points. I just really don't like it. Northern Illinois, kind of the darling of, the MAC this year. It's hard to not want to take the 3.5 with them. You talked about it. What keeps me, I think Kent State's the better team. You mentioned that they haven't faced an offense like this. They haven't, but I think they'll be able to run on Kent State, and this game is close. It's just difficult for me. I can't lay even 3 in the hook, even college right here in a MAC game with a bad defense like Kent State. I took them once or twice this year, and that defense has looked horrible. Of course, they were playing different teams then. They weren't playing. But Northern Illinois, really good. Lombardi has just shocked the shit out of me. I mean, the guy's played great. As long as he keeps not turning the ball over and just does his job, hand it off, I think Northern Illinois is in this game. And I think Northern Illinois, at times, their defense can play. We'll see, though, this week against Kent State if it can stand up. Because you talked about that up-tempo real quick. But they've made stops, key stops in some games to win them games. So that would be big here in this one. I'd lean the +3.5. Northern Illinois just seems to keep, getting it done or be really close in these games. So I'd take the 3.5 if I had to.
Yeah, it is. I keep on disrespecting Northern Illinois, and they have been a cover machine. They really have been.
Yeah.
So it's just that coming into the year, you would have said you get Kent State barely laying more than a field goal at home against Northern Illinois. We all thought Northern Illinois was going to be a bottom, 3 or 4 team in this conference, and it hasn't played out that way so far. So sometimes you just got to admit, hey, this team's obviously played better than I thought. So I still lean Kent, but I definitely lean over as well, 66.5. Central Michigan and Western Michigan, always a good rivalry here. Western Michigan, 10-point home favorite, 66 being the total in this game. Western Michigan, they've been a funny team the last few weeks. They get crushed by Ball State, who's a good team. They crushed Kent State 64-31 and beat them down, and that's a pretty good team. And then against Toledo, with a guy making his first start of the year because they made a quarterback change, because as I mentioned when we talked Toledo earlier, Carter Bradley was struggling, and Western Michigan gets wiped out in that game, 34-15. Turnovers were an issue. They actually moved the ball, but they turned the ball over. The defense kind of struggled a little bit, particularly against the run. We'll see if they can bounce back here. Western Michigan, the one good thing is off a loss, they've played well. We've seen it this year. They lost to Michigan badly, and then they bounced back the very next week, shut out their opponent. They lost to Ball State. They absolutely annihilated Kent State after that. So it's a good spot for a bounce back for a good Western. I still like this team. They've had a solid year to this point. Caleb Ellaby's a very solid quarterback here for Western Michigan, leading the offense. They've got a lot of good weapons to work with for him as well, with Kincaid and Tyler running the football. Sky Moore Jalen Hall, terrific receivers. I mean, a really good offensive team in terms of skill position talent. Can they bring it here against Central's defense? I think they can. I mean, we just saw Central give up 39 spot to Northern Illinois in a loss. They gave up 23 to Toledo, and that was with Carter Bradley still at quarterback for them. They gave up 27 to a really weak Ohio team, 28 to Miami. Oh, it's not been a very good defense this year for Jim McElwain here with Central going into this game. So I do get concerned about that. Western Michigan, by the way, has really controlled the last 3 head-to-head meetings. Usually this has been a tight series in the past, not so much lately. 3 straight meetings, 35-10, 31-15, and 52-44 in favor of Western Michigan. So 3 wins in a row for Western, and the smallest margin of victory was 8 points. So I don't know if I want to take 10 with Central, and I still think Western is not only the better team, but could significantly be the better squad going into this game with the way Central's just been way too erratic for me. You know, they barely beat Toledo. They barely beat Ohio. And then their other games against anyone in the MAC, they've lost. Miami O and Northern Illinois. So I don't necessarily trust them to match up well. This could be a game where maybe Western Michigan first half, maybe Western Michigan team total can get there. That's what I like, actually. 36.5, the team total for Western Michigan. Again, lost a couple weeks ago to Ball State. What did they do in their next game? They put up a 64 spot in a bounce back type of spot similar to this one's. And look, Central's defense just hasn't been good. And this will be one of the better offenses, quarterbacks that they've faced here in conference play. So you could lay the points, but just to be safe, because you never know, especially in a rivalry game, like Central's going to be fired up to play Western. It's a directional school type of rivalry in state. But I like Western to get to 38 or more, which would cash that team total. So the 36.5 on Western Michigan's team total to the over definitely piques my interest. What do you think here, Conor, Mac?
Yeah, there'll definitely be points scored. You mentioned it because the beatdown you talked about the last few years, because usually this is always a competitive, in my lifetime. I remember these games always being tight, Central and Western Michigan. The right team's favored. I think 10 points is spot on here with this one. Do you kind of want to reach a little bit? Western take care of it, at home. Ellerby's been really good. I think the offense can light it up, but they've thrown up their fair share of duds, every once in a while. Central just seems to hang around, especially lately in games. So that's what I'm worried about. This one's very difficult for me. It's a game I'm probably just going to pass. I think Western's a better team, but I don't know by 10 points here.
All right. Yeah, and you have definitely contradictory trends as well, because you've got the Central Michigan's only covered once in the last 5 meetings, but the road team is 8-1 against the spread, which would have you looking towards Central. So
I was looking at that. Yeah.
I mean, it's tricky in that the road team's dominated, but not head to head, as Central had a good run of it here against Western. So that's what makes this one a fast. And what I am confident in is that awful loss like Western Michigan suffered against Toledo, and they're home here in Kalamazoo. I think you'll see that offense get revved up again. And Central's not stopping anybody here the last few. They're giving up 27 and 30 to the likes of Ohio, and Western Michigan should be able to get to 38, which is all you need because it's 36.5. I think it's very, very doable for Western Michigan to get to 38. So I like that team total. All right, Thursday, Sunbelt action. Georgia State, Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns, I should say. They want it to be called that way for whatever reason. Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns, 11.5 point home favorites, 53.5 total in this game. I don't know. This is not a game I'm going to be involved in. I have much stronger opinions on the MAC games we just talked about than this one. I mean, Cajuns, I thought, hey, fade them in a double-digit favorite price range last week against Texas State, and they absolutely destroyed Texas State in that game. One of their best games of the year. So I'm reluctant. Now, this could be a week where I say, you know what? They destroyed Texas State. They should be able to handle business against Georgia State. Now, this will be the week where, like they did against South Alabama and a couple of their other games, they'll just do enough to get by and barely win the game. So it's one of those teams right now, the Cajuns. Your guess is as good as mine. Flip a coin whether they show up and are focused and put in a strong 60-minute performance in this double-digit favorite role. One week they do, one week they don't. So I'm not willing to guess and play that guessing game. So I don't really have a strong opinion at all. I'm going to stay off this one. Conor Mac, Georgia State, Louisiana.
Yeah, the Ragin' Cajuns just whipped that ass. I wanted to stay far away from that game. I definitely wasn't going to lay the points in 45-0. Man, this one's difficult for me because everything says don't take the Rage Occasions. Again, laying these points. Georgia State, this is the perfect game they could cover. I want more, though, than kind of the 10.5, 11.5 that you're getting. I wanted over 2 touchdowns with Georgia State. So for me, as the favorite, it's just a lean is the Raging Cajuns. They're just playing good football. It's just tough. I don't know if I can make it a bet, but I'd lean that way with that offense. Defense looked really good last week, and they're back home. I'd lean that way with them.
All right, Thursday night football, NFL style. New York Jets, Indianapolis Colts. We've got the Colts 10.5-point home favorites, 46.5 the total in this game. First thing that immediately stuck out to me in this game is the Jets are going over the total these days, 4 straight overs for the Jets. Indianapolis's offense is getting better with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, and I said this last night, that game against Tennessee, it was like you see this beautiful garden. All of a sudden, you're walking in it. Everything looks great. Oh, and then you step in this turd. Oh, and then all of a sudden, things don't look so good. But then you get back to the garden again. It's beautiful again. And you step into another turd. And that was Carson Wentz's performance against Tennessee. Lots of beauty, lots of good things, and then a couple of turds mixed in, like that interception in overtime, like that brutal, borderline brain dead decision to do what he did in his own end zone. In the fourth quarter yesterday. I have no idea what that guy was thinking there. Just, chucking it up in the air, not really looking at what he's doing. Sure enough, that's just, gosh, Pee-wee football quarterbacks know not to do that. I mean, my goodness, just absolutely brutal decision-making for Wentz. And look, he had a really good game for the most part against Tennessee, but he still gives you those odd mistakes here and there that cost you. And they did that. But still, I will say overall, the Colts are moving the football. On the ground, Pascal, Pittman, the run game or the passing game is starting to work. It looks like there's a chance potentially that T.Y. Hilton might be back for this game here for the Colts as well. So keep an eye on that. So there's definitely some things to like here about this offense. It's improving. I mean, and you look at the numbers they've put up the last few games, they've hit the 30s, in a majority of these games lately. And look, the Jets, I'll say this, I was shocked with the game plan against Cincinnati in that massive upset because they not only put the game in Mike White's hands. They obviously felt he could move the football, and he was chucking the ball down the field. There was a vertical passing game throughout. They were taking shots down the field, and Mike White was terrific. I mean, he barely had like 8 incomplete passes, 400 passing yards. I mean, he was just absolutely tremendous for the New York Jets yesterday. Now, there's going to be a game of film on him now, and he's got to go on the road now on a short week. But it's not like the Colts defense is trustworthy. We've seen the Titans go up and down the field against them, and we've seen a couple other teams do that as well of late. Baltimore did, and coming back from a fourth quarter deficit to beat the Colts. The Colts defense isn't great. It just is not. It's not a shutdown defense. First thing that immediately stuck out to me was the over in this game, 46.5. I think it gets there. The Jets right now, believe it or not, their offense is better than their defense at this point in time. And that's been disappointing for Robert Saleh, is this defense just hasn't played very good. So I think we'll see some points indoors, Lucas Oil Stadium, no issues with weather. I like over here, 46.5 Thursday night, Jets and Colts. Conor, how do you feel about this one?
Man, this game just is like my ultra hatred of Thursday night football. Jets, Colts, can't get any kind of shittier than this game. Dude, White just chucked it like you talked about, over 400 yards. It was like, where did that come from? Can that happen again in 4 days on the road, at Indy? I don't know. But, God, 10.5's a lot. I don't know. I've got Bird. The NFL, yesterday was all right. I mean, it hasn't been bad, but, man, it's just been average for me. And Thursday night football here, I don't really want to get involved. You talked about the Jets, their defense has gone. Where has it gone? They're lucky they scored all those points, or they would have got beat down. The Colts defense not very good. I think there'll be turnovers in this game. I think you're right. I lean over a little bit. We've seen a lot of these games, whether it's Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night, the total, it's gone over. I lean over here a little bit as well. It's just, I think the Colts score on the Jets Can White still do the same? Can he, can they put over, 21, 24 points? If they do, this thing goes over. And I can't lay it with the Colts here. I only look to the Jets. I know it's short. 1 week they beat the Bengals. It might be a, one-hit wonder, but I'd lean plus the points with them here.
All right, we go to Friday, college football. Virginia Tech, Boston College. It is currently Virginia Tech 3-point road favorites here, 46.5 to 47. The total in this game. Boy, I'll tell you what, Boston College, I righted it wrong because I took them against Louisville off a bye week, and they did not play well. Or not off a bye week, but just after a loss to NC State, thought they could get back on track a little bit, that offense, and they lost 28-14. They were outgained pretty heavily. Same thing against Syracuse. This offense is dead as a doornail right now for Boston College. Dennis Grosel ain't Phil Jerkovic. We found that out clearly in the last few weeks. Just not the same quarterback production. Basically, teams are loading up stop the run because, of course, they don't trust their quarterback, Grosel. 9 of 17, 93 passing yards. Terrible for Grosel in that game against Syracuse. So they're loading up on the running backs, Levy and Garwo, here for this BC team and daring them to run the football. And look, 71 rushing yards on 40 carries. Like horrendous run production. And it's because they're loading up to stop the run. And even when they do that, Grosel can't make a pass. He can't complete a forward pass barely. So you can't run the football because everybody's loading up to stop the run because they don't trust your quarterback. And your quarterback's not even making any plays right now. So it's an offense that's really in the shits right now for Boston College. I don't want to back them. Question is, can you lay 3 on the road here with Virginia Tech? And, maybe you can because, I was impressed against Georgia Tech. Things were starting to, snowball against this Hokies team. They had lost 3 in a row. For them to respond, on the road at Georgia Tech, when things were starting to fall apart for them and get a road win against the Yellow Jackets, 26-17, means the team hasn't completely, let go of the rope, at this stage of the season. It means they're still battling. It means they're still competing. So for me, I could only look Hokies here. I don't love the prospects of laying points on the road with this team, but I would lay the 3 with Virginia Tech before I take Boston College. I think this game could be under as well. You look at Boston College, defense struggling. It's not like Virginia Tech's a lighted up offense. The game against Georgia Tech only got to 43 total points last week. And again, Boston College has been a dead nuts under team since Jerkovic got injured. They've had no offense. They've scored 13-7, 14-6 in their last 4 games, all of them staying under the total. So I lean Virginia Tech. The better bet might actually be under. I see 47.5 out there in some spots. I think it's a lower scoring Friday night ACC matchup. C-Mac, what do you think?
You nailed it. You ran through everything I was going to run through. This is under for me. Under 47. 7, you said 7, 14, 6. I watched some of that game, that Syracuse game. They cannot move the ball. Virginia Tech's defense, I know they had those games where they gave up some points against Notre Dame and stuff, but they looked fine last week against Georgia Tech, a game I thought that might go over. And I didn't trust Georgia Tech, stayed off the side. I'd lean the 3 with them. I just don't like it enough to play it, but this is an under for me, even at 47. Under.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think the total might be the better way to go about this game. Yeah. Utah and Stanford now, Pac-12 action. We've got Utah rather, 7-point road favorites, 52.5 being the total here in this game. This is an interesting one because I'll tell you what, I was so ticked off with Stanford and with David Shaw the other night. I mean, just an utterly despicable display of coaching down the stretch in that game from David Shaw. Clock management, play calling, conservative again. This guy, could you make a play to end the game instead of just being so damn conservative here? And I knew when they gave Washington that last chance there that watch them go down the field and win the game with a field goal. Oh, they did one better. They didn't. They actually punched it in for the touchdown with a few seconds left to win that game. I'm so sick of this guy and his conservative 1980s old man dinosaur era type of thinking when it comes to coaching a football team. I'm really sick of it. I mean, have a little creativity here. Have a little guts. Have a little, feel for the game that, hey, maybe we should try to go for it, a time or two. Maybe we should let Tanner McKee, who can be a good quarterback if we let him, maybe complete a pass here. Now, I know he was up against a Washington defense that's still pretty good. Now, Washington's had a tough year, but it's mostly been because of their offense, not their defense. But still, I mean, I'm sick and tired of watching this crap year in and year out now from Stanford. That they got so many games that are so winnable for them, and they just piss it away with just conservative playing not to lose rather than playing to win thinking. And I'm just very, very upset by that. Says someone that really liked that Stanford side Saturday night against Washington. So the question is, do they bounce back here? For all the ripping I'm doing on Stanford, this does feel like it could be a decent little spot and number to back them. They're at home. They've played, competitive at home. Like even the Washington loss at home was set by 7. They beat Oregon at home. They've been competitive. They gave UCLA a pretty tough game at home. I'm not sure I'm fully ready to lay 7 on the road with Utah, especially when you consider Utah just lost at Oregon State in their last road game as favorites. They lost to San Diego State as favorites early in the year, lost to BYU as favorites early in the year. It's a tricky one because Utah's still kind of a bet-on team for me, and I cashed with them against UCLA on Saturday. Great performance, 44-24 for UCLA. They've now gone over the total, Conor Mack, in 4 straight games, all of them since Cam Rising took over at quarterback.
Yeah.
They've got an explosive, balanced offense now, and I think you might see that on display. And on the other side of the fence, Utah's defense is not been that stout defense we've seen in the past. And I think actually Stanford, believe it or not, is going to probably enjoy playing Utah's defense compared to Washington. So at home, I think McKee and the Stanford offense could do enough. This could be a sneaky over. Total's only 52 and a half. That's probably the way I'd bet it right now, the total more than the side. What do you think here, C-Mac, Utah, Stanford?
Yeah, on the total here, this key number of 52, I need it just below it. They got just over it in that Arizona State game. It was 51 and a half. I remember it, 35-21. Could see a similar type game. So it's right there. It's right on the line for me here at 52. But you talked about it, Cam Rising, that offense. They're in the 40s, and it seems like their defense, still pretty good, makes plays, but, they give up, in the 20s, 30s. They gave up, 42 to Oregon State. This number is pretty right there. It's enticing you, saying Utah's hot, they're playing well. Take the touchdown on the road, but I'd be leery here as well. The problem is with Stanford, that shitty play calling with Shaw. I mean, you can't lay points with them, but maybe in this dog roll of catching some points. McKee's not that bad, but these go downfield. They play such a shitty
everything's dink and dunk and just so short to intermediate passing. It drives you crazy. Can we see the guy's arm for a minute here? Can we see if he can complete a big-time vertical pass down the field? Give him one shot at least, one crack, one shot to try to throw the ball down the field. That's all I'm asking.
Me too. I mean, that was horrible, though, that game against Washington. I saw the UCLA game, the Oregon game. Play calling was decent, but that was just horrible. It's like he wanted it to be 13-13, just run it, short, shitty pass. He does that here. It's going to be tough for me to back them with the 7 points. If this was under the touchdown, I lean Utah, and I lean over as well. I just right there at 52, I think it's spot on, 52 and a half.
Yeah, I'm reluctant to get in Utah's way. The only concern I have is Utah on the road hasn't quite been what they've been.
Yeah, not the same as Salt Lake. Yeah,
not quite. So, but I've been making money with Utah for the most part. Like I took them against UCLA, I took them against Arizona State, I took them against USC out of the bye week. I said that was the time for them to hit the reset button, start playing better football. And boy, they have done that, especially on offense, which is why I lean to the over here in this game. Because look, their offense is putting up some points. 42, 35, 34, 44. Like, and this total is only 52. And look, Stanford's defense, against the better offenses they've played, they gave up 34 to Washington State, 28 to Arizona State, 35 to UCLA. So that's why I think we could get an over in this game if hopefully Stanford contributes, which I think they could against the Utah defense. All right, we'll move now to Saturday's college football action. We'll start with NC State and Florida State. NC State 3-point road favorites, 55 and a half being the total here in this game. I got to lay it here with NC State. I think they're the right side here. I was impressed with NC State. Some injuries, tough loss to Miami, bounced back, beat Louisville. The defense was terrific. for NC State. Wow, with some key guys out on that side of the football, and they still completely bottled up and shut down that Louisville offense last week. Very impressed by that. Florida State, all-out effort, all-out emotion, intensity, physicality against Clemson, only to fall short and end up losing that game in brutal fashion. And by the way, speaking of losing in brutal fashion, if you did not bet Florida State early and get 10.5 or 10 on Florida State and you got the 9.5 instead, my condolences to you. That is as brutal an end. It's one of those stupid, multiple lateral plays on the final play of the game. They end up going backwards with it. A Clemson player picks it up, dives into the end zone, final play of the game to turn a 4-point margin into a 10-point margin. So if you had Florida State plus 9.5, one of the worst beats you could experience, just absolutely terrible. If you got the worst of the number there with Florida State, I don't trust them to bounce. That was such a gut-wrenching game. They put a lot of stock into that Clemson game. They were starting to turn things around. Then having that game end like that, just absolutely horrendous for Florida State. I don't think it's going to be difficult for them to pick themselves up off the mat following last week. So if the line at least stays at 3 and doesn't get higher than that, I would only look to the Wolfpack here in this game. Conor Mack, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know how Florida State's going to come back after that game. I mean, they will be back at home. They've been playing better football, even though, that ended up just being a 4-point game. I mean, it ended up being 10 because of that play. But they were right in that the whole time, like I thought they'd be. My problem is NC State looked good back at home against Louisville. Their defense played well. But NC State on the road, laying this field goal, that's why I stayed off it against Miami. I'm leery about it here. I really like the Wolfpack. I just don't love them too much on the road. I like the under here. I think Florida State's defense has played better. That was my biggest hurt because I had the 10 that pushed in that game. Yep. I had the under pretty big in that Florida State Clemson game.
The under too. I forgot about that.
Both. You could have got double whammied there in that game. But 56, I think this is a little high. I definitely like the under here.
All right, we go to another ACC matchup next up, Georgia Tech, Miami. Next up, we've got Miami, 9.5-point home favorite, 64 the total. And who breathed life into Miami? Who resuscitated this dead corpse? Holy mackerel. I mean, all of a sudden, the last couple of weeks, Miami has shown life again the last couple of games. They give them credit for it, and including, of course, the upset against Pitt last week. Classic Pat Narduzzi, right? A huge win against Clemson, and then next week you can't follow it up, and you end up losing to Miami. Oh, my gosh. I feel bad for Pickett. Pickett played well, but the Pitt defense didn't. And actually, Pickett had one bad turnover that ended the game at the end, and he probably wants that throwback, but you can't blame it on him. Can't blame it on the offense. The defense couldn't stop Tyler Van Dyke, and that's now multiple teams, Conor Mack, that have not been able to stop Tyler Van Dyke. They might have their quarterback of the future here for Miami. He's getting better, and some of the throws he's making, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the decision-making. I'm impressed with the arm strength. I'm impressed with his ability to lead the offense with poise and with confidence when he's just, only a few starts into doing this here for Miami. But back-to-back wins against good teams, too, NC State and Pitt, and we'll see if they can keep going here in this game. Here's the problem, though. I mean, they lost to North Carolina, but covered by 3. Lost by 3. Covered 3 straight covers, and then, of course, NC State, they win by a point. Close game. They pull it out against Pitt, 38-34. Now you got to ask them to win by double digits again, though. And that's a little bit of a different case altogether. I'm going to probably just ride over the total with Miami. I was on Miami Pitt over the total. If you were with us on Saturday with me, Conor, Ragu, and Boss, that was an early best bet for me on the show from the early games. I love the over in that Miami Pitt game. Miami's offense is rolling, and look, Miami's defense is still shaky. I mean, they've been winning games lately. They've been covering spreads. It's been because of that Tyler Van Dyke offense. It's not been because of the defense. They're still giving up 30, 34, 45 points in their last 3 games. I think Georgia Tech can do enough offensively to help this game get over the total. That's the way I would bet it here. 63.5, 64, Georgia Tech and Miami over the total. Conor Mack, what do you like here?
Yeah, Miami's been playing some good football. You talked about Van Dyke. I think they might have the guy at quarterback. Maybe finally. He made some great passes in that game against Pitt. But Miami hasn't beat Georgia Tech, I think, in 4 years or so. Now they're 10-point favorites again. Again, now it's low, but it's double digits. I'm leery. I talked about Georgia Tech. I didn't even want to lay the 3 points against Vatech last week. But now when they catch points like this is when I think they could be dangerous. I lean the 10 with them, and I love everything Miami's been doing. And I'm with you. I lean over the 63.5. Miami's just been scoring at will. Georgia Tech's defense is not very good, and I think they'll be able to move it on Miami here. So I lean the points with Georgia Tech, and I definitely lean over here.
All right, we have Wisconsin and Rutgers next up. Big Ten action. Wisconsin 12-point road favorites, 38 the total in this one. Wouldn't surprise me to see this be low scoring. Cashed with Rutgers on Saturday against Illinois, 20-14 win. And I said the bye week, I like what I was reading from the Rutgers players, from Greg Schiano, saying, hey, we've had a rough stretch. We've lost 4 in a row, but it's our bye week. We've worked on some things. We want to make a bowl game, and that win was significant. To get to 4-4 now, they're just 2 wins away from bowl eligibility. This is definitely something that matters. Some teams, hey, if we play a minor bowl game, who cares? We don't care really if we play in a minor bowl game. For Rutgers, it matters. They want to make this happen because they haven't been in a bowl game in a long time. So this is important for them to try to get to 6 wins. So I think for the rest of the year, you're going to get a solid effort from them. And look, their defense was very good again yesterday. And really, their defense has been solid for the most part, other than Michigan State and Ohio State. And those are 2 very good offensive football teams. So I think the Rutgers defense can maybe keep them in it. Now, they've not exactly played good at home this year, which is odd, other than the big win against Temple early on. But again, their previous 2 home games were those Michigan State, Ohio State games. Wisconsin's not on their level. Yeah, they're not in their level, though, Wisconsin, compared to Michigan State, Ohio State. Now, they are playing better. And Graham Mertz is actually playing better the last couple weeks against Purdue and Iowa, those back-to-back wins for Wisconsin in that game. But you look at this spot here for them after Purdue, Iowa, Army, a physical game, and now you're going on the road against Rutgers. It's not the spot. I'm ready to lay 12 with Wisconsin in this game. And Rutgers is playing with purpose. The bye week refreshes them, and that's another thing to factor in, Conor Mack. Wisconsin hasn't had a bye in forever. This is going to be their 7th straight week playing a football game. So a big-time freshness advantage for Rutgers, too, because they just had the bye before their last game. So I'm willing to take a shot here. Home underdog, Rutgers, plus the points. Conor, what do you like here?
That's my lean here. This might go up a little bit more, too. I'd wait. It's moved up a little bit already. Rutgers has hit the shits. That's what people, again, it's those bigger teams, those big names like you talked about, Michigan State, Ohio State at home. Man, if this goes up higher, if I could get over 2 touchdowns, I'd really like it with Rutgers. To me, it's a dead under. I will be on the under here. Wisconsin, you talked about it with Mertz. As long as he doesn't make mistakes, they'll be in this game. They can even win this one. Off the big win against Iowa, they're playing better football. I still don't trust Chris. Home or away, laying double digits. So I lean Rutgers with you, and I will be on the under.
All right, Clemson, Louisville. Clemson 3-point road favorites, 46 the total. So Clemson's either 1-7 against the spread this year or 0-8 against the spread. It all depends on when you bet Clemson in the Florida State game. If you bet them early, you lost. If you bet them late, you won. So it depends. But either way, depending on what number you got, they're either 1-7 against the spread. That would have been their first cover.
That's how they got their win.
State. And that's how they got it, on a stupid play that was a lateral at the end of the game against Florida State, and Clemson recovered in the end zone. That's how they get their first point spread covered. For some, although for others, if you bet Florida State early, Clemson wouldn't have cashed for you because they opened 10.5 against Florida State in that game. So, but the bottom line is they're still not a team I'm trusting to cover point spreads right now. Really, they could have lost to Florida State. They were trailing in the 4th quarter. Then they get the touchdown drive and then the crazy play at the end of the game. Now, the question is, can we trust Louisville? Louisville at home has been pretty solid this year. They beat Central Florida at home. They 1-point loss to Virginia, beat Boston College at home. On the road is where they've had a little bit more difficulty at times. But, at home here in Louisville, they've been solid. Malik Cunningham in the offense last week against NC State shut down. You do get concerned because, look, Clemson's defense is not totally thrown in the towel, and they're still pretty solid on that side of the football, without a doubt. But I'm leaning here to Louisville. I'm still not ready to lay more than a field goal on the road with Clemson. I don't say I love Louisville, but I definitely lean, and I might bet it small, Louisville here at the plus number as home dogs. What do you think here, Conor Mack?
Yeah, I'm leaning Louisville as well. Just because Clemson wins that game, I don't want to jump on them right away. They still struggled all game long. They still have a defense, though. Louisville, you could say North Carolina, their defense played well. But I think Louisville could have played better in that 28-13 loss. I lean them with the points here. I lean under. We're not getting a lot of value now, though. This is one I thought would be like 48 or 49. It's 45. There's not a lot of wiggle room. They keep dropping that Clemson on the total. So I lean under. If Cunningham at home takes care of the ball, I think they're in this game. I think they can win it. So, yeah, I'd lean the points to them to 3.5.
All right, we have Louisiana Tech and UAB. UAB 13-point home favorites, 50 the total in this one. You look at this UAB team. They lost to Rice as 23.5-point home favorites in their last game, 30-24. Disappointing loss, just a terrible game by their standard. What happened to their defense? And Rice just not all that good either this year, and UAB lost to them. But disappointing loss. Give the quarterback credit. Wiley Green played well for Rice in that game. Dylan Hopkins has been the quarterback for a while, but the big problem for UAB was, they had a fumble in that game and an interception by Hopkins in the game. But more than anything, they ended up giving up a bunch of yardage. They ended up just struggling on the defensive side of the football, to give up, 350 yards to Rice, not something you'd expect from a very good UAB defense. But this is UAB off a bye week. And for Old Dominion, for Louisiana Tech, rather, this is a crushing loss that they're off to against Old Dominion. They fall to 2-6. They've now got to win out to gain bowl eligibility. And even if they do, they're playing in one of those rinky-dink minor bowl games that I don't know if they're going to be that excited about. Normally, I'm flocking to Louisiana Tech plus the points, Skip Holtz as an underdog. You know that. But, man, there's something not right with this group. They have looked lethargic now 3 weeks in a row. Blown out by UTEP, blown out by UTSA, losing as favorites to a pretty weak Old Dominion team. If you ask me, the offense, Austin Kendall, it sputtered the last 3 weeks. And I'm seeing a track record of UAB when they've lost a game, they've roared back the next time out. North Texas, 40-6, they beat them after they lost to Georgia, UAB. And then UAB lost to Liberty. And the next week, they crushed Florida Atlantic by 17. I would normally never do this, but I'm actually closer to taking UAB, laying the points, and going against that long-term angle of Louisiana Tech plus the points. I'm worried about where this team mentally is right now, Louisiana Tech. They're 2-6. They've lost a bunch of close games, and that was the maybe breaking point, that loss to Old Dominion. I don't know if these kids are going to respond here. And the UAB off a bye week after a bad loss to Rice, and they've been good in these bounce-back games this year. I actually lean favorite here, the Blazers. Conor Mack, what do you think?
Yeah, man, this one's crazy. You were talking about, you could look at it either way. UAB all of a sudden don't just lose. I mean, they were 24-point favorites over Rice. They got their ass kicked. And Louisiana Tech, the struggles, the bad loss to Old Dominion, but Old Dominion's getting better. The losses before I thought were bad. I think Old Dominion's playing a little better football, but it is tough for them. Here's the deal. If I can get this over 2 touchdowns, I'm going to go La Tech. I think they come back and play better football. I get they're lost a little bit, 3 straight losses, but what's UAB? I mean, are they going to bounce back? Getting their ass whipped by Rice? Maybe. They had the bye like you talked about. I'm not really trusting them to lay 2 touchdowns. Their defense is still pretty good. Maybe lean under on this total. But if I can get it over the 13.5, I can get over 14. I got to go with those numbers, as a double-digit dog. I got to take it. Because those last few weeks, I've stayed off it. I wasn't going to touch any of those games. Old Dominion, they were favored by 4. But now, back again, 14 points. If I can get it, I'll take La Tech.
All right, Indiana, Michigan, Big Ten. By the way, Vitalis in the chat saying if the Lions go winless, would this surpass their 2008 winless season since we expanded to 17 weeks? Yeah, it would be worse, definitely. 0-17 is worse than 0-16. This would be worse.
Yeah,
and that
I think they win a game
back. Yeah, I thought
that was pathetic. Yeah.
It
I
wasn't
think
good.
they win one, but
No.
that was bad. That was hard to watch.
That was hard to watch because you've seen Detroit at least compete. The effort's been
Yeah,
there most weeks. It was not there yesterday against Philadelphia. That was shocking.
that was the good old Lions.
No, no,
Yeah,
good old Lions. Same old Lions. That's been the
same old
refrain
shit.
around Motor City. Indiana, Michigan. Michigan, 19.5-point home favorites, 51 the total in this game. I don't want to overreact to Michigan losing that, hey, things are going to fall apart. I don't buy into the bubble burst theory here. Normally, I make a case that, hey, team loses their first game of the year. It's a bit of a hangover spot the next time out. I don't think so because this team can still win the Big Ten. It's going to come down to the Ohio State game, when it's all said and done on that side of the fence in the Big Ten. So if you're Michigan, there's still a lot to play for here. Ohio State, Michigan, although you lose to Michigan State means that you got to hope Michigan State also loses down the stretch, or else they're going to be the ones potentially representing the big East Division in the Big Ten championship game. But, it's more that I just don't trust Indiana, not so much that I think it's not an automatic bet against spot for Michigan. I mean, Indiana did finally get their offense going against Maryland, but they still lose 38-35, and they give up 8 points to Maryland and Talia Tagovailoa in that game. I will say this, Donovan McCulley, who was the quarterback, they switched quarterbacks. Jack Tuttle wasn't doing the job. They bring in Donovan McCulley. He was a little bit better. 56% completion rate. You'd like to see that improve, but 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, didn't make any mistakes. The big thing is they got the run game going. Stephen Carr, the USC transfer, 136 rushing yards against Maryland. They're not going to be able to do that here against Michigan's run defense, which I was going to say has been great all year until they ran into Kenneth Walker from Michigan State on Saturday. It was just an unbelievable performance. But look, nothing for Indiana running the football is in the Kenneth Walker stratosphere. So I do believe Michigan's run defense can shore it up, get better here in this game. This looks like an under to me, to be honest, 51. I would lean that way. I don't trust Donovan McCulley against this defense on the road. Michigan's more than happy to just, run the football, which I think they'll be looking to do, get the victory. Don't know if I want to lay the 19, but I don't trust Indiana's offense enough on the road to take the points either. I would just maybe look under in this game. Conor Mack, Indiana, Michigan.
Yeah, if I was over 3 touchdowns here, I would look at Indiana. You talked about the quarterback change. That helped them out for their offense, but their defense, Little Tua, still scored 38. They did cover that game. I didn't play it, but I thought laying the 4 might have been too much. They got the job done. Michigan wins here. It's just, can they cover 20 points? I'm not so sure. I think they definitely win this game, but this will be a good win. I think they win here. Then they end up losing. They'll lose to Ohio State and maybe Penn State. So just same old Michigan. Sorry to all my Michigan guys out there.
Yep. Sorry about that. Yeah. Better luck next time. We'll see. But no, they can still have a very good season, but the margin for error has obviously dwindled significantly now. No question. Wake Forest and North Carolina, the Tar Heels 2.5-point home favorites here, 76.5 the total in this game. You got to ask yourself here, what is up with North Carolina being favored in this game? Isn't Wake Forest the better team? Have we not seen enough here in Wake Forest to buy into this team right now? They've been absolutely terrific, undefeated, 8-0. They just wiped out Army, wiped out Duke in their last 2 games. They beat Syracuse, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Florida State. Now, you could argue they haven't faced, great ACC competition yet, but they've beaten everyone that they were expected to. And North Carolina probably is, believe it or not, one of the tougher games that Wake's played so far, tougher teams. But North Carolina, I just don't trust them right now. I mean, you look at their results. They barely beat Miami. They lose to Notre Dame. The defense has fallen apart. They've given up 35, 42, 44 points in their last 3 games. That's bad news against this Sam Hartman Wake offense that's playing extremely up-tempo, that's explosive, that's balanced. They can run the football. They can throw it. 40 rush attempts, 32 pass attempts. Nearly 200 rushing yards per game, 311 through the air. That's bad news for this struggling North Carolina defense. I think the strength of schedule, there is something to that. And it's very, very concerning here that North Carolina is taking the money here, but I don't care. I mean, I'll be on Wake either way. I'm hoping this gets to 3. I'll like Wake even more here in this game. The total's extremely high, 76.5, but you're not seeing me bet an under here. in this game. You saw North Carolina and Notre Dame, Connor Mack, got to 78 points last week. If those two are getting to 78, so can these two teams on Saturday. So it's over or pass for me, and I'm going to lean Wake here. Wake's a team I've been riding. I took them against Army, took them against Duke, even laying the points. I like this group a lot, and I don't care that the money's coming in on North Carolina. I think it's wrong team favored. North Carolina is clearly underachieved. Wake Forest has been better than people thought. Winnable game for them. I don't trust North Carolina to stop this offense right now. What do you think, Connor Mack?
This is moving, though. I already see twos. This is going to Wake. Wake's going to take money here. This has already dropped a little bit. I think it drops to 1.5. 1. North Carolina, no defense. They might have played better teams. That good win was that Virginia, that second half where Virginia couldn't score a point on offense that scores 50 a game, didn't score anything. That was about it. I mean, every game they've lost, I haven't seen that defense is horrible. They got shredded by Notre Dame. Wake Forest has only been putting up 50 points a game. I'm with you. The total's high as shit, but I'd only look over in the North Carolina game. And Wake Forest, I've been taking them mostly first half. Sometimes I split a first half and full game. They're one of the best first half teams in the country. Hartman, guy's been there for 20 years. It seems like he keeps getting it done. I think they're just the better football team. I just gaping holes in that North Carolina defense. They'll be able to move it against Wake. So that's why this game could be close. You know, it could be a 3-point game in the end, but give me the points here with Wake, but I don't think you'll need it. Just take it money line.
Yeah, and Mac Brown and the coaching staff, they've got to work overtime now to keep this team fired up and motivated. Like 4-4 is not what North Carolina expected to be at this stage of the season. So you got to keep them, you know, there's still lots at stake. Like they're trending toward playing in a minor bowl game right now. That's where we're at for North Carolina. We thought this team could win the conference, and that's going to be tricky if, you know, to say we get an all-out effort knowing how disappointing things have gone. I'm not so sure. By the way, last year, it's a revenge game too for Wake. They lost last year in Chapel Hill 59-53, and the game had 112 points in it. So that's another, like, it was just an all-out shootout with these two teams. And I think we're going to see something similar here. Like 42-38. 42-38 cashes an over here. Could you see that? I sure could with these two teams. So at 76, I'm over or nothing for me when it comes to the total in this game. All right, next up, we've got Liberty and Ole Miss. Very, very fascinating non-conference game here. We've got Ole Miss, 9.5 point home favorite, 68.5 the total in this one. Money's come in on Liberty. I kind of agree with this one, Liberty and Ole Miss here. Even though it's in Oxford, Liberty going on the road here. How much does Ole Miss really they should care about this game because Liberty's a solid group of 5 team, but how much do they? And they just lost to Auburn. It's their second loss now. They're getting to the point now, Ole Miss, that things are starting to, all their expectations before the season, you know, winning the SEC, even winning the West Division, they're not going to happen now. You know, you worry about that a little bit. Is there really that focus here for this non-conference game against Liberty? I'm not totally sure about that. And then you go back home to face A&M next week, which is probably a bigger game because it's in conference. For Liberty, they get this opportunity to showcase themselves against a Power 5 team. They're going to take advantage of that. And look, their offense is humming again. Last 2 weeks, granted, UMass and North Texas are awful teams, awful defenses, 35-62. But look, Ole Miss defense, I'm waiting for them to show me the improvement that Lane Kiffin thought they would have going into the year, and they just haven't. So I think Malik Willis and company going to be very, very fired up for Ole Miss. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be that way the other way around. Keep in mind, we have seen evidence of Liberty, you know, the last couple of years testing their mettle against these Power 5 teams. You know, against Syracuse, they lost by 3 earlier this year. Keep that in mind. You go back to last year as well. We saw them play a couple of teams pretty tough. Virginia Tech, they beat them 38-35 last year. They lost by 1 at NC State last year. They beat Syracuse last year. They have risen to the occasion. Every time they played a Power 5 team, it's Liberty or nothing for me. And Ole Miss, you're right, still has all kinds of injury concerns. Is Corral 100%? He's been banged up the last couple weeks. Yeah, Liberty plus the points if I'm betting this game. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, I lean with Liberty here, catching the points. I wish it was a little bit more, but you're right. This is finally they're getting up for it. They got this, they got the Raging Cajuns and Army. They before this, other than that Syracuse game, they weren't getting up for any of these football games. There's just no way. Liberty, UMass, and they lost to Monroe, falling asleep at the wheel. I think they're in this one. One thing, Liberty's been able to points, but I wonder how their defense plays. Because this, obviously, at 67, this total, obviously it could fly over. But Ole Miss has had 3 straight unders. 4 or 5 have been under. I don't know. I think this game could stay under as well. And you talked about the success last year. I wonder if this Liberty team is as good as last year, because they played, NC State well in Virginia. I'm leaning the points with them. I wish it was a little bit more. But I think maybe they can hang with a banged-up Ole Miss team. And with Malik Willis, he can make plays. So lean Liberty.
Yeah, I lean Liberty. I lean over as well. Baylor TCU. Baylor 6.5-point road favorites, 59 the total. Well, we were talking about how Gary Patterson was losing his touch with this TCU team while he's out the door. He's lost his touch so much that he's out the door. Let go by a TCU. Didn't even give him the chance to finish the season. So disappointing. A long run of, and look, he did a good job with TCU, but TCU's been going downward the last few years, and I think they needed a new voice, a new change, and they're going to get that here. So how does these players react now? The first game after, the coaching change, do they rise up? Everyone, sometimes in other sports, coaching change gets people's attention. You play good the first game after a coaching change. I still don't want to back TCU here, and I certainly don't want to go against Baylor. Baylor just continues to get the job done, cover point spreads. Another nice win for them against Texas last weekend. Going on the road, laying 6.5. I don't know if this is the ultimate spot to back Baylor, but I know I don't want to do much with TCU right now. So it would be a lean for me to the Baylor Bears, but don't know if I'll get involved. Conor, what do you think?
Yeah, that's where I look too. I mean, do they all join together and play up, with the coach gone? I'm not so sure. I just think this TCU team's not very good. Defensively and even offensively, it's showing. They can't even move the ball at times the last few games. I mean, K-State held them down. It's a lean. If you can get this under a touchdown, I think Baylor takes care of business. They got it done last week. It's kind of a down spot here. And I'd only lean over as long as they're playing – TCU could score a little bit. I think it could get over the 59.5.
Yeah, I again, with Baylor or TCU, the defense has been disappointing, and I'd be with you in leaning over the total a little bit there as well, no doubt. Penn State and Maryland. We've got Penn State 10.5-point road favorites, 55 being the total here in this game. I'd lean on, there's another dog where I'd lean to Maryland here, and don't forget, Maryland last year when they played Penn State, beat them down 35-19. Last year they beat this Penn State team, and this is kind of a mini rivalry. Yeah, it's kind of a mini rivalry. You've got Sean Clifford taking a bunch of punishment in that game against Ohio State last week. They gutted it out, battled. I thought their effort was terrific, Penn State, but they still fall short, 33-24 in that game. Their third straight loss. Look at the schedule. The Iowa loss, the Illinois loss in overtime, a tough, hard-fought loss against Ohio State. They hung in there. The defense did for as long as they could. And now you've got this Penn State team out of the Big Ten conversation, out of the playoff conversation, obviously. I don't know where the heads are at. And now you're laying doubles on the road against a Maryland team that, look, things weren't going well for them, but they picked it up. They got a win at least, which should spark them a little bit. 38-35 win against Indiana. They can clinch bowl eligibility with a win. They're back home. There's no way in this spot with 3 straight losses and questionable psyche that I'm laying 10.5 with Penn State. Maryland or nothing for me. Conor, what do you like here?
Yeah, there is no way I'd be taking Penn State. I'd run away from this one or look at Maryland. You mentioned that game last year. I remember pretty vividly. That was Maryland, probably their best game all year. I still get scared. It's not laying points, you're catching points with Tua, that he just has one of those freak-out game turnovers. Penn State's defense still pretty good the regulars throughout the year. Yep. That scares the shit out of me. I lean them, Maryland here, catching the 10.5. I just don't love it.
All right, we move on now to USC Arizona State. Arizona State 8.5-point home favorites, 60 the total in this game. Arizona State, absolute egg against Washington State over the weekend. They lose 34-21. Really, it was just sloppy play and turnovers. And look, the defense really, that's 2 weeks in a row the defense has crumbled for Arizona State. 35 and 34 points allowed the last 2 weeks. This looks to me like it might be a shootout here all of a sudden, because USC still does have a capable offense with Slovis, and I don't like their defense much at all. They gave up 42 to Utah, 31 to Notre Dame, 34, and I'm seeing Will Plummer for Arizona move the ball up and down the field against USC last. That's Arizona's offense doing that. So I don't trust either defense right now. Arizona State's defense has crumbled and fallen apart 2 weeks in a row, and USC's defense hasn't been great all year. But with Slovis and that offense, they're at least capable. Total's moving up. It opened 58.5. It's now 59.5, 60 starting to show up. I agree with the move. I think it could be a little bit of a higher scoring game. What do you think, Connor?
I agree. I think Arizona State could maybe get 40 on SC, and they could get in the 20s. Arizona State just, laid an egg. But I'm telling you, Washington State's pretty good. They got a solid defense. I told you, look out for them. They've been playing good football. The Pac-12 hasn't been easy. Some of these games to handicap, especially USC. It's like you take them. You don't know what football team you're getting, what offense. Obviously, they don't have a very good defense. I lean with them in the points. I'm not going to probably take it. But, yeah, I think this can get over the total here.
All right, Ohio State and Nebraska. We've got Ohio State 15-point road favorites, 63.5, 64 the total in this game. Ohio State obviously did what they had to do against Penn State. Their red zone offense wasn't good. I mean, they settled for one field goal after another, which pissed me off. That's exactly what cost me the over in that Ohio State-Penn State game. They just settled for way too many field goals. The pace was there. They were moving the ball in between the 20s, a lot of yardage, but they just could not finish off the drives in the end zone enough against Penn State, yet they still scored 33 points. What ends up happening if they finish those drives? They could have had 50 in that game. Nebraska losing to Purdue 28-23 over the weekend. That's 3 losses in a row for them. Nebraska's now 3-6. They basically got to win they got to win each of their last 3 games just to get to bowl eligibility. I do not trust them here, even though they're at home getting a big amount of points. We saw Ohio State just absolutely destroy them 2 years in a row. Scott Frost versus Ryan Day has been a mismatch the last 2 years. 100-24 combined score the last 2 years, Ohio State over Nebraska. I'd honestly lay the points here. I don't usually like road favorites very much, but I'd only look at Ohio State here. Maybe Ohio State team total, maybe the full game over as well, because I think Ohio State's got 48-50 potential here in this game. Keep in mind, they moved the ball up and down all game against Penn State. Penn State's red zone defense was good. I don't trust Nebraska's red zone defense to be as good.
Yeah.
Connor, what do you like here?
Yep, I'd lay it with Ohio State. Top 5 first half team too. Take them first half. They've been money there as well. Man, we were singing the praises of Nebraska a little bit. They kept a few games close with Oklahoma, Michigan State, beat down Northwestern, hung with Michigan, and then 2 horrible losses to Minnesota. And everyone thought they were going to beat Purdue. Couldn't get it done. Yeah, this is Ohio State. I don't know about the total. I guess I'd lean over. In Ohio State games, you just kind of lean over, but that's high. It stayed under in that game last week. So this one could stay under as well, but I'm on Ohio State. Lay it.
Mississippi State and Arkansas. We've got Arkansas 5-point home favorites in this game. 55.5 being the total here between these two teams. Should be interesting to see how this one plays out. Mississippi State, give them credit. Very impressive win against Kentucky. Shut down Will Levis and the Wildcats offense 31-17. Very good defense from them. The offense led by Will Rogers, 344 passing yards, only 3 incomplete passes, 36 of 39. Talk about efficiency from Rogers at the quarterback spot. For Arkansas, really, it comes down to how do they defend the pass? And when you look at their numbers against the pass, they're only allowing, 167 passing yards this season per game. I like the way their secondaries played. I also like that Sam Pittman and this coaching staff, they have a bye week to get Arkansas ready for this game. And I know they had 3 really tough losses in a row. Georgia, Ole Miss, and Auburn, 3 straight SEC losses going into this game. But I like the setup here for Arkansas. Off a bye week, I think this team still wants to have a strong finish, 5-3. It's still been a solid season. Obviously, they're not that SEC contender that we maybe thought they were after the A&M win, but they're still a good team. They're still a team that I think wants to have a good finish to the season. They can get to still a pretty solid bowl game if they have a strong finish. And with Mississippi State now going on the road, don't know if I trust them here fully. I like this situation here for Arkansas, laying a reasonable enough number, a secondary that's been pretty good. And if you take away that air raid offense, doesn't give Mississippi State's offense much else they can do to beat you. So I lean to Arkansas here, -5. At home, off a bye, good spot. And look, they've been brutal schedule too. They played Georgia, they played Ole Miss, they played Auburn. They played a real tough schedule. I think now after the bye week, they're fresh. They get the job done. What do you like, Conor?
Yeah, man, this one's interesting. They're off the bye after those bad losses. I think Arkansas plays well, but I don't know about laying 5 here. This might be too many. Mississippi State, good win against Kentucky. Even in those that obviously the 49-9 that Bama lost, but those 2 losses they were in to LSU and Memphis, and the rest of the games they took care of business against A&M, NC State. I think this is a field goal game. Even though it's much like Arkansas, I think this could be a field goal game. I lean Mississippi State catching the 5 points here.
All right, next up here, we've got SMU and Memphis. We've got the Mustangs, 5.5-point road favorites, 72 the total. I'm pretty sure I'll be looking over the total in this one. I've been on a bunch of Memphis overs. I've been on SMU over the total a few times. And SMU, how are they going to respond? Obviously, undefeated no more, a tough loss to Houston. I mean, back and forth it goes. We think we're going to overtime. Nope, kick return, touchdown, Houston with like 15 seconds to go. And Houston gets the victory, 44-37. What a time for your special teams to fail you and your kick coverage unit to fail you like it did for SMU at the end of that game. A wild one. They lose to Houston 44-37. So they'll look to bounce back here. I'm going to be interested to see the quotes here from SMU. Like, I want to see if these kids their frame of mind is in the right place. Like, hey, tough loss against Houston, but we're having a great season still. We want to bounce back. We need to get back on track. If I hear that kind of urgency from SMU, then I might lay the points with them because I don't think much of this Memphis team. I mean, Memphis, they lost 24-7. Now, they do have the bye week, which is an advantage for Memphis. That's the one concern. But before the bye, they lost by 17 to Central Florida. They beat Navy, which isn't saying much. They lose to Tulsa. They lose to Temple. I mean, they just haven't had a lot of impressive performances. And keep in mind, before the bye, Seth Hennigan was injured and didn't play in that Central Florida game. They had to go to Peter Parrish, and the offense perished with him at quarterback in that game. Just wasn't very good. Seth Hennigan is questionable. Even after the bye, extra time to heal up, he still may not play. He's still battling that hand injury and may not play. So I lean SMU laying the points. I don't think they're just going to fall off just with one loss. Tough loss. There was a good Houston team on the road. They could have won that game. They matched them point for point. Tough break with giving up the kick return touchdown at the end. I trust SMU a lot more than Memphis. I'm leaning road favorite, leaning over as well. But I think I might only bet the over if Hennigan's at quarterback. If it's Parrish, I'd probably like the SMU side more. If it's Hennigan, I'll probably like the over more. What do you think, Conor Mack here?
Yeah, I just haven't been big on this Memphis team either. I mean, and then what's their head like that bad loss to Central Florida before the bye? I mean, it was just horrible. And, they beat Navy, which I was shocked, 35-17. There were some ref calls I thought were horrible. I thought Navy should have been in that. And some bad loss to Temple, close losses to Tulsa. They beat Mississippi State, but we talked about the yards, the turnovers in that one. I don't know what to make of this team. It's tough for me to take the 5 points with them. And I don't know, where SMU's head's at. So this is a game I'm probably going to sit back and not do anything with. If I had more than a touchdown, I'd maybe look Memphis. But there should be points, 70. So that's a high total here.
All right, next up here, we've got Navy Notre Dame. Interesting one here. Notre Dame, 20.5-point home favorites, 46.5 the total in this game. Navy, for the most part, since Lavatai has taken over at quarterback, we've seen, them cover some of these bigger point spreads. UCF, Houston, SMU, Cincinnati, Tulsa, outright win as 12-point dogs. 5-1 against the spread their last 6 games, all since the quarterback change. And, for Notre Dame, you're facing the Naval Academy. Do you want to run up the score? You're playing Virginia and Georgia Tech and Stanford. After that, it's a lot of points to be like. And look, Notre Dame's turning a corner. There's no doubt they're playing better. 3 straight wins, 3 straight covers against Virginia Tech, USC, and North Carolina. Their only loss still on the year is Cincinnati. No shame in that. Jack Cohen and the offense playing well. The defense has played for the most part better. Struggled a little with North Carolina, but North Carolina does have a pretty good offense still in quarterback. The big news here for Notre Dame, how do you do against the run? They're only giving up 136 rushing yards per game, 4 yards per carry. We'll see if they can match up well. And the one concern for me, even though I'm leaning to Navy, the last 2 meetings, 44-22 Notre Dame, 52-20 Notre Dame. They've rolled Navy the last 2 times, and I don't know if I want to step in front of Notre Dame with them starting to really play their best football of the year right now. So lean Navy, not sure I'll pull the trigger. Conor, Mac, what do you like here?
Yeah, I lean Navy. They've played well. You talked about it the last few weeks, but those scores are not good. We talk about Big Boss, like he says, Notre Dame, maybe they just want to get in and get out of here, not run up the score here at home. So yeah, it's right now it's 20.5. If I could get 21, maybe there's 21 out there or over 21, I'd look Navy because I think they can run it and keep it close. It's just when they get down by 4 scores, usually they're just done because you can't run it and come back running it like that. So as long as they don't get down, I think by 3 or 4 scores early, I think they could stay within the 3 touchdowns here.
All right, Oklahoma State and Virginia Tech, a very good one here in the Big 12 next up. Oklahoma State 3-point road favorites, 49 the total. Boy, this is tough. I mean, West Virginia at home, I like backing them. I took them plus 7.5 against Iowa State last weekend. They won outright 38-31. I was so impressed with the offense. We've had issues with this West Virginia offense most of the year. But boy, against a very good Iowa State defense, there's Jared Dagey lighting them up for 3 touchdown passes and 370 passing yards. Letty Brown does big damage on the ground with 109 rushing yards for West Virginia. A balanced offense and their best offensive game of the season. Good timing because they're playing a very good Oklahoma State defense coming into town here. It's tough because Oklahoma State's in a team in this kind of price range. I still think if you grade out the talent, I certainly think you give an edge to Oklahoma State here. But let's not sell West Virginia short. They went into the bye week limping, 3 straight losses, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, and Baylor. The season could have went off the rails for them. Neil Brown got it back on the tracks. They used the bye week to their advantage, and they've had 2 very impressive wins against TCU and Iowa State since the bye week. So I don't want to sell West Virginia short, and at the same time, I don't want to fade Oklahoma State laying only a field goal. So it's a great football game. I don't know if I'll be betting it, though. Maybe a lean to the under, if anything. Conor, Mac, what do you think here?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to bet this one either. Man, Oklahoma State took care of business, kicked the shit out of Kansas, just keeps rolling. Do the Cowboys. And West Virginia played well. I was shocked by the offense, too. They always play better at home. But, man, yeah, Dagey, that offense played really well against Iowa State. I had a loss there because I had the under, but I had West Virginia. I'd be on the under here. I think this one, I know the offense has played well, but Oklahoma State's defense has looked good all year long. You can get 49.5s. They're still out there, 49. I think this is a defensive battle and probably a field goal game. It's just tough to go into Morgantown and win by a touchdown or more here.
All right, we move on now to Tennessee and Kentucky down in the SEC. Kentucky 2.5-point home favorites, although it's down to 1.5 now in some spots. 57 the total in this one. A lot of love for Tennessee coming in here in this game, and maybe people seeing Kentucky not look so good last weekend against Mississippi State. The offense couldn't get much going, and the defense struggled with the air raid of Mississippi State in that game. We'll see if they can bounce back here at home. They have been a good home team, though. They beat Florida, beat LSU at home. Don't sell Kentucky short at home. The good news but the problem is for Kentucky is that Tennessee is coming off a bye week, which is an advantage for them. A little bit of extra time to prepare. Hendon Hooker's really played well at quarterback since taking over here for this Tennessee squad. The defense, though, is still shaky. They give up 31 to Ole Miss, 52 to Alabama. 38 points in a loss to Florida, 41 early in the year against Pitt. So, still not a great Tennessee defense by any stretch of the imagination. And look, Mississippi State's defense has played well lately. Georgia's obviously one of the best defenses in the country. this could be an opportunity for Kentucky to get something going offensively. So more than anything, I'm going to be proactive here. I don't think much of Tennessee's defense. I still don't think they have a great defense. But I think with the bye week, their offense is going to test Kentucky because Hendon Hooker's moved that ball. Not really in love with either side, but 57, and you know what you're going to get with Tennessee, extreme tempo. I'm leaning over the total here, Tennessee, Kentucky. What do you think here, Connor?
That's where I lean, is a little bit over. They need, maybe at Tennessee is a team that Kentucky needs, because they've had a tough time moving it. I mean, only 17, obviously 13 at Georgia, is not a big deal, but they struggled all year at times to score as this Kentucky offense. I'd be leery here. This is a big rivalry. I don't like either side, and I lean over, though. I think we could see points. I think it's a little bit of a low total if it's 7.
All right, next up here as we continue along, Texas, Iowa State. Right now we've got in this one, Iowa State 6.5-point home favorites, 60.5 the total in this game. Bounce back time for Iowa State. Obviously not thrilled with losing to West Virginia on the road last weekend. Now they're back home as almost touchdown favorites against Texas. But last time they were home favorites, they only won by 3 against Oklahoma State. And I still stand by what I've said about Iowa State this year. Can you find the good win on their schedule? Other than, Oklahoma State was a good win, but they only won that game by 3. Other than that, Kansas State, Kansas, UNLV, Northern Iowa. I like Matt Campbell and the job he's done here, but I think the defense has kind of regressed just a little bit. It's not that same stout Iowa State defense we've seen the last few years. I've got concerns. And look, the offense was good against West Virginia, but you're giving up 38 points to a West Virginia offense that's not exactly been, the juggernaut offense the last couple seasons. So I get worried about that. Their defensive numbers have declined. And one thing you get from Texas is the ability still to score points. You look at the way Texas can put up points. They got shut down a little by Baylor, 31-24. On the flip side, Texas's defense continues to be a problem. 55, 32, 31 points. We'll see how this one goes. But, this one could slide over the total. And normally I'm not an over guy when it comes to Iowa State. But their offense is starting to hum a little bit with Breece Hall and Brock Purdy. And look, their defense has kind of come back and regressed a little bit. And Texas's defense you can't trust either. So I lean to the over here and slight lean Texas at 6.5. Just because, Iowa State hasn't been able to show they can beat a quality team by margin. So I lean to the dog. I lean to the over. What do you think, Connor, man?
Yeah, I still think this is too many. I haven't bet on any of these Iowa State games all year where they've been favorite. I just don't think they're that good. Here, I do think they might be 6.5 over Texas. But Texas, I think, man, they could stay in it within a touchdown. I don't think it's a game I'll get involved. You talked about Iowa State's offense has been better. They have Purdy and Hall. Texas still can't stop anybody. Even if they score, it seems like 30, they're going to give up 40. So that's where I don't know if I can take Texas in the 6.5. I think the total's right there. I think this could get into a shootout or probably just stay under. So this is one I'm a pass.
All right, nothing wrong with that. We move on now to Michigan State and Purdue. We've got in this game here, Michigan State 3-point road favorites, 53 the total. Obviously, can Michigan State withstand prosperity? They're obviously on cloud 9. Euphoria has taken over after the big win against Michigan on Saturday. You do worry a little bit about a letdown hangover spot. And look, we've seen Purdue take advantage of a spot like this earlier this year when they beat Iowa. And they caught Iowa in this same kind of spot. So this is a dangerous game for Michigan State. And I was on Michigan State plus the points. Kenneth Walker, a beast, absolute animal running the football. Definitely he's in the Heisman conversation. He's got to be. The defense, they struggled at times, but they came up with big stops when they needed it. And a huge, huge win over Michigan. They now control their own destiny, still undefeated. We could see Michigan State in the Big Ten championship game. Will there be a hangover? It was such an enormous win, beating Michigan like that. We'll see. The betting markets don't seem to think there will be a hangover because Michigan State was 2.5. They've actually been bet up to -3 here in this game. So I don't want to necessarily assume there will be one in this game, but this is probably a week I'll just lay off. I don't know if I'll jump on Purdue because they're in a price range where they got to win the game here. But we'll have to wait and see. This is one of those live betting games. See how Michigan State comes out early in the game, first quarter, and then maybe make a decision. And if they look like they're sleepwalking, maybe it's going to spell trouble. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, I mean, this is what great teams will, if they come out here on the road, the next week, a place like Purdue that have beat some good teams, if they can win this one and cover by number. So I lean still Michigan State. I know it won't be easy. What I key on here, I think 53 is too high. I think this could be a real low-scoring one. I don't trust – but Michigan State with Walker will just pound it. Purdue's offense isn't anything to get excited about. I love the under here. That's my biggest play in this game. And if you like Michigan State, get a 2.5 because, like you said, let's move to 3 in a lot of spots.
All right, next up here, as we continue along, we've got Auburn, Texas A&M. We got Texas A&M 4.5-point home favorites, 50 the total in this game. Wow, I'm leaning Auburn here. They've got something serious going on right now, Auburn. I've been impressed. It is Bo Nix on the road now, but that's not the same cachet that it had last year. He's played better in his road games this year at Arkansas, at LSU, at Penn State. Even early in the year, they lost, but they were right in that game. I don't think he played terribly. You got Texas A&M off a bye week, so it is a scheduling edge for A&M. They beat down South Carolina 44-14 and Missouri before that after the massive upset win against Alabama. But, I'm liking what I'm seeing here from this team overall, both sides of the football. Auburn at the moment, A&M, again, they've turned it around. And really, to be honest with you, their offense has really found something the last few weeks. Zach Calzada is playing better. Remember, he had those early troubles. But look, Devin Akaney and Isaiah Spiller running the ball, a great double threat in the backfield for A&M. So the bye week is probably going to be the factor that might keep me off Auburn here in this game because it is a rested home team off a bye week at College Station. It'll be a fired-up atmosphere. This is the CBS SEC game on Saturday afternoon. Yeah. Maybe we could get over 50. It's 50, and Auburn's offense has really taken flight. I mean, 31-38 the last 2 games. A&M's offense has performed better, 41 against Alabama, which is damn impressive, 35 against Missouri, 44 against South Carolina. Sneaky over maybe, 50. It's not like we're asking for an all-out shootout here to get over that total. What do you think here, Conor? Auburn A&M.
Yeah, that total's interesting to me. I could see it getting over. I could see it under. I could see these defenses dig in here, and it could stay under. I'd stay off the total, even though there'll be a huge game at College Station. It's crazy. I don't know if I could do it. It's take the 4.5 with Auburn, back my guy Bo Nix. I haven't done it a lot over the last few years, but he's been playing well. As long as he doesn't turn the ball over, especially on the road, I think Auburn is in this game, and I think 4.5 might be too many. So I'm looking at Auburn plus 4.5.
All right, we got 3 games left: Boise State and Fresno State. Fresno 5-point home favorites, 58 the total in this game. Fresno State, of course, a very impressive win against San Diego State over the weekend. And I said, put San Diego State in a spot where they got to be down by double digits. Now let's see how they react. And they didn't react well. Fresno got them behind the 8 ball early. And they couldn't respond from there. 30-20 win for this Fresno team. Boise State bouncing back. They had their bye week, and they beat Colorado State 28-19. This should be an interesting football game. Fresno obviously has played great. They've actually been good on the road. We talk about how they've been bad at home. They've been good on the road. And 4-0 ATS, their last 4 road games, 8-1 ATS. Their last 9 as a road underdog. And that's what they are here, a road underdog at Fresno. I'm thinking that bye week might have cured some things for Boise. I lean Boise here in this one. Back and forth game. The offense got going a bit against Colorado State last week as well. 28 points. We know how good this Fresno offense is. And they've been going over the total, and they pulled San Diego State into a rare over, 50 points in that game. Total reasonable here, 58. I think it could be over the total. I lean to Boise as well. What do you think here, Conor Mack?
Yeah, man, I've liked Fresno all year, but there's certain times when they start to become favorites over 3 here against a team like Boise, I put caution to me. I think the points for me is with Boise. I like their win last week. I think their defense has played better. If they could just start running the ball, Boise, consistently, I think, they just had trouble doing that all year. I think this one's tight. I've been a big Fresno backer all year, but I think this could be a field goal game either way.
All right, LSU and Alabama next up. Alabama 28-point home favorites, 29 in some spots, 66 the total in this game. Obviously, for LSU, they do have the advantage. Both teams are off a bye, so there's no advantage there. LSU lost to Ole Miss 31-17 before the bye week. What do you get from them here on out is the big question. But all I know is on the road, they beat Mississippi State barely, but other than that, they've had some tough road games. At UCLA, lost by double digits. Kentucky lost by double digits. Ole Miss on the road lost by double digits. Didn't cover in any of those games. Alabama beat down Tennessee 52-24, although they really only beat them down in the fourth quarter. That game was actually still very close going into the fourth quarter. Tennessee hung around, and then Alabama just eviscerated them and won by 28. And that's the problem here. LSU might hang around for a while, but when the floodgates open, all of a sudden, here's Alabama closing in on maybe covering that big number. So that becomes the tricky part here for LSU in this game. It's not a game I'm probably going to have a strong feel on one way or another. 29 is the point spread here. Alabama first half did not cover against Tennessee for a change. Could it happen here potentially? I just don't like the idea. Like, we're talking about Ed Orgeron and his staff off a bye, Nick Saban and his staff off a bye. That's probably an advantage to Nick Saban and his staff off a bye. I just think they'd put more into it than LSU at this point, especially with a coaching staff that's out the door. Like, Coach O is going to be gone after this year. Alabama might be the bit more prepared team ready to go in this game because of that. What do you think here, Conor?
Yeah, I think it's Bama. They're at home too. They're just way better at home. You talked about they didn't cover against Tennessee first half. I don't know about it here. I mean, that's the only way I'd look. I would take them first half or not. I think LSU could score, but they're going to give up a ton. LSU doesn't have a good defense. Bama should just shred them here. So it's roll tide for me.
All right, San Jose State, Nevada. Nevada 10-point home favorites, 54.5 the total in this game. I'm leaning to the Spartans here. They've turned things around a little. Remember, they had a lot of injuries. The schedule was a nightmare. A lot of travel earlier in the year. It caught up to them, and the injuries did as well. But they've covered 3 in a row. They only lost to San Diego State by 6. They beat UNLV. They beat Wyoming last week, 27-21. A lot of points here. And look, the one concern is San Jose State, when they beat Nevada last year, 30-20, that ended Nevada's Mountain West title hopes. I think Nevada remembers that, and I think they want revenge in a bad way. They've been talking about it, but they'll be just as happy getting their revenge by 7 points or by 3 points than by 10 or more. So I still lean San Jose State, but I do think Nevada is going to really take this game seriously. And we saw last week when they're clicking, then they can win by margin. But I'm still leaning to the road underdog here. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, I think they want revenge. I remember that game last year, that 30-20. I lean UNR. That was, man, they just came out, whipped UNLV. We talked about UNLV was due to probably get blown out, and they blown out real quick. Man, San Jose State's played better. Like you talked about, the horrible schedule, the injuries. 10, I lean them catching the 10. I think it'll be a close one. I haven't decided yet. And I think this could get over. I don't love it, but I lean over a little bit.
Yeah, the one issue is the passing game is more limited for Nick, obviously with Nick Nash at quarterback. I mean, only 50% completions, 150 yards. They have to be able to run the football. And Nevada's run defense has not been that bad. So if they can't run the football, if Carson Strong and that offense get behind, this could be a game where if it gets like 7-0 or like 17-7 Nevada, you actually may want to bet Nevada live in game because they don't have the passing game with Nick Nash to come back from a big deficit if they fall behind. They just don't. And Nevada might pile on the points because, like I said, it seems like they want redemption here because that loss to San Jose State, that was it. That knocked them out of the Mountain West championship picture, that loss last year. So that's what's worrying me.
Yeah, me too. God, they looked good against, a UNLV team that was playing pretty good, at least covering numbers, and UNR just kicked their ass. So That's an interesting one. I can't wait to watch.
All right, briefly, NFL Sunday whip around. Now, I don't have a whole lot here in terms of early week bets right now with NFL. I'll throw out a couple. I kind of lean Bengals blow a field goal against the Browns. I think they can bounce back. And if Cleveland's not any healthier than they were last week against Pittsburgh, look, they're having trouble winning games at all, let alone winning games by margin right now, Cleveland. They're still beyond banged up. Cincinnati, I give them a mulligan for the Jets game. It was the ultimate, that was one of the biggest wins that they've ever had in years, the Baltimore game, and they just fell completely flat. I don't think they're all of a sudden garbage. I think they're capable.
The defense, though, it's got to get better real quick.
It does. And I think it will go back home. I lean Cincy there. And I like Las Vegas Raiders, too, -3 against the Giants. Giants on a short week because they're playing Monday Night Football against Kansas City tonight. Raiders off a bye week. Raiders 2-0 straight up and against the spread since Gruden left town. I think the air has been cleansed. The team is focused on winning games, winning a division, which they still can. They're first in the AFC West right now. The Las Vegas Raiders, I think 3 is cheap on the road there with the Raiders against the Giants next week. What else? I think there was one more I was looking at. Oh, yeah, over the total with Chargers and Philly. Now, I think that'll be a higher scoring game. I think the Eagles offense, is capable against, look, a Chargers defense, let's be honest, it's struggling. We know Herbert in that offense, kind of a rough game for them. They should find the Philly defense, which is not that good, a lot easier to manage that. So I think we see points with the Chargers and the Eagles, and probably the same thing with the Titans and the Rams. It's a high total, that Sunday night showdown, but I bet the over already 53.5. I think you'll see points in that game as well. So there's my Sunday early NFL looks for the week ahead. Connor, you got anything for Sunday NFL?
No, I haven't bet anything yet. If there's no Tyrod Taylor, I know they scored some junk points, but I'd even laid a touchdown with the Dolphins. I mean, the Texans are that bad. I was looking at that one. What was I else looking at? I was looking at the Philly game as well. Would you take the over in that? The under? What'd you say in that Philly game?
Over. Chargers and
the
Eagles,
over 50. Chargers, man, they cannot stop the run. And now they're going to go to Philly and be favored by 3. I know it's dropped to 2.5 in some spots. Give me the Eagles. I know they're off that big win, the Lions, but catching points at home, I like that one. And that was about it that I had written down. And Green Bay, right now you can get them 3 against the Chiefs. Obviously, Chiefs play tonight. I don't have nothing on that game. But I'd be on Green Bay. Right now you can get 3 in Kansas City.
Yeah, that'll be one of the marquee games next Sunday. Packers and Chiefs, Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes going head-to-head for sure. All right, that is the hitting the books. That's the rundown. We've gone through all the college football, little NFL at the end as well. We'll wrap up the show in just a second. Hit the like button if you haven't done it already. We'll wrap up the show in just a second. But first, messages from Manscaped and Southtown 101. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke. Southtown 101. Manscaped. Promo code PubSports. Get 20% off your purchase using the promo code PubSports. Lawnmower 4.0 and any Manscaped product. And mybookie.ag, promo code PubSports. Football season, lots left. NBA, NHL, college basketball starts next week, as does the college basketball show with Connor Mack and Maxwell Smart on this channel. So get ready for college basketball. It's almost here. Great time of year to sign up for an account at mybookie.ag. Bitcoin accepted currency for your deposit as well. mybookie.ag, promo code PubSports. All right, we thank everybody for joining us once again on another edition of Hitting the Books. Connor Mack, some final thoughts before we say goodbye.
No, shout out to the chat, everyone in the chat. Nutflush, what up? R, Pocket QB, Lamar Jackson, Cab, all the guys, Big Smooth, Vitalis, who was in here, Max on Record, everyone that's been in here, we appreciate it. Check everything out. Chris Comentini, everybody, thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. I'll be back with the Pub Hub, NBA, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m.
We be
Pacific,
pubbing
right here on Pub Sports Radio. We'll see you then. For Conor, Mac, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday. Thanks for joining us. We're back next Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll do it all over again, and we'll hit the books right here on Pub Sports Radio.